Okay, you guys, continuing with the same topic, let's go to exercise 19-7 that deals with the exercise of stock options and forfeiture of stock options and how we'd handle that. Okay, Walters, and this is on page 1173, of course. Walters Audio Visual Incorporated offers an incentive stock option plan to its regional managers. On January 1, 2016, options were granted for 40 million $1 par common shares. The exercise price is the market price on the grant date, $8 per share, meaning they can buy the options when they vest. Their vesting date is January 1, 2018 for $8 per share. The options cannot be exercised prior to January 1, 2018, and they expire on December 31, 2022. The fair value of the 40 million options, estimated by an appropriate option pricing model, is $1 per option. Same as the par value on the common shares, but you guys, those two $1 numbers are not at all related. I actually wish they weren't the same, but there's no connection between the $1 par value and the $1 fair value per option. Okay, number one, determine total compensation expense or cost pertaining to the incentive stock option plan. Okay, so what we want to do is take the estimated fair value per option, which is $1. Options granted, 40 million. And then we're going to multiply the two together. Of course, I could even do that math in my head. We get $40 million the fair value of the award. Okay, on number two, prepare the appropriate journal entry to record compensation expense on December 31, 2016. Well, as we know from the earlier exercise, no entry is required on the day the options are granted, January 1st, 2016. But we'll make our first entry for 2016. And I guess we could put, this is number 2. Okay, on December 31, we're going to recognize part of the compensation expense, which is the fair value of the award. Okay, now notice these options were granted on January 1, 2016. They cannot be exercised prior to January 1, 2018. So that's the vesting date. They're going to vest over a 2-year period. So what we'll do, just like in the last exercise, we'll debit compensation expense for half of the fair value of the award, or 20 million. Then we're going to credit, as you saw before, paid in capital stock options for the same amount, 20 million. Okay, then we'll go to number 3. They want prepare the appropriate journal entry to record compensation expense on December 31, 2017. Okay, now at this point, the entire amount of the award, the remainder of the award will be recognized, and then the entire amount will have been recognized over the 2-year period. We just make this same entry again, you guys. Probably get boring to you, but we're about to get to something a little different. Okay. I meant by boring, I meant it's the same thing we did in the last exercise. Here we're about to get to the different portion. Okay, so now the compensation expense has been recognized over the vesting period, and we've increased paid-in capital stock options during that same period of time for the fair value of the award. Okay, so let's read number 4. Prepare the appropriate journal entry to record the exercise of 75% of the options on March 12, 2018, when the market price is $9 per share. Okay, and that's not December. I just got used to putting in December. March 12th. Okay. First, you guys, you know we're going to debit cash. The company is, right? They now receive some cash from their employees buying these shares. How much cash are they going to receive? Well, the exercise price on the grant date was $8 per share, so that's what the employees get to buy them for. That's the beauty of the stock option, right? It tells you on January 1, 2016, 2 years from now, you can buy this stock for $8 a share. Well, since it's now trading at $9 a share, you'll want to exercise those options. If not, you're just leaving $1 per share money on the table. Had the price been $7 per share, well then probably no one would have exercised the options because they could buy it on the stock on the open market at $7 per share. Why use the option to buy it at $8, right? So the solution, I said that the market price on the exercise date, the $9, is not relevant. Well, it's not relevant in the journal entry. You won't use that number. But it's relevant in whether or not the employees decide to exercise the option. If that number was 7, no one would exercise the option. At 9, 75% of the options are now being exercised. So we're going to say cash is equal to $8 per share times 40 million shares. But all 40 million weren't exercised, only 75%. Now you guys, you could just look at 40 million and say, well, 75% of that's 30 million, and multiplied 8 by 30 million. I carried it out a step for you there. So we get $240 million. Now we're going to debit paid-in capital stock options to remove that from the books. But we don't want to, what's the balance? Well, it was credited for 20 million and credited for 20 million, so the balance is the fair value of the award, 40 million. So we're going to debit paid-in capital stock options for $40 million times 75%. Again, we get the 30 million. Unrelated to the number of shares, just turned out to be 75% of the $40 million. Was the reason it's $30 million here and it was 30 million shares here is because they made the fair value of the option $1. Okay. But the 30 million came from multiplying the fair value of the award times 75%, or 75% of the balance in the account. Okay, then common stock now needs to go on the books. Okay, there were 30 million shares, or we could carry it out the step this time too. 40 million options times 0.75, or 30 million, then times the $1 par value per share. That's not the fair value of the options. That's the par value of the common stock shares. Remember, common stock goes on the books at par value. So that's 30 million as well. So then we're going to credit, you probably guessed it already, paid in capital in excess of par common stock for whatever it takes to balance the entry. So 240 million plus 30 million minus 30 million. I believe that's going to come to 240 million. There we go. Alright, now we still have a $10 million balance in paid in capital stock options though at this point. Okay, number 5. Alright, so what do we do here? We put cash on the books at the number of shares being purchased, which was 30 million or 75% of 40 million, times the $8 exercise price. We put paid in capital common stock or paid in capital stock options. We debited it to reduce its balance by 75 for 75% of its balance, because 75% of the options were exercised. We put common stock on the books at 30 million shares times the $1 par value per share, and then we credited paid in capital in excess of par common stock, increased it to balance the entry, because we're receiving way more cash than the par value per share. Okay, on number 5, prepare the appropriate journal entry on December 31, 2022, when the remaining options that have vested expire without being exercised. Okay, so the remaining options, or the other 25% of the options, are never exercised and eventually expire on December 31, 2022. I'm going to do number 5 here. So we're going to debit paid in capital stock options to go ahead and wipe it off the books. For the remaining balance, well, the balance was 40 million minus 30 million that was written off here. So we get $10 million. And then we're going to credit, just transferring it into another paid in capital account. And it's called paid in capital expiration of stock options. I'm going to move that down a row. You can always do that if you need to finish out an account title on the next row. Just indent again, showing that it goes with this one. And then you put your number over here, $10 million. Okay, you guys, and that takes you through stock options. There's no entry on the day the options are granted. It's essentially compensating the employees, so we'll recognize compensation expense over the vesting period, or the period they have to hold the options before they can be exercised. Debiting the expense account and crediting paid in capital stock options. Then when they're exercised, we debit cash for the amount received, which would be the exercise price on the grant date, right, times the number of shares issued. We debit paid in capital stock options for the percentage of the account balance of the options that were exercised. I feel like that was wordy and maybe didn't make sense. If the balance in the account's 40 million and 25% of the shares are exercised, we would have debited this account for 10 million. 75% of the 40 million shares were exercised, so we debited it for 30 million. We'll credit common stock for the number of shares issued times par value, and then balance the entry with a credit to paid-in capital in excess of par common stock. Then for the options that expire, well, we just debit paid-in capital stock options and credit paid-in capital expiration of stock options for the remaining balance in the account on the expiration date. Alright, you guys, I hope you do well with that one. I don't think you'll have any trouble after working through this with me. Just look for the exercise 19.7 on Connect. Thanks a lot, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.